So you drink some red? Habs color.
I might as well drink the red for the Habs. Are not going to last very long in the
Well,
playoffs.
that's how I was going to start. What do you think? I'm saying 5 games.
Well, here's the thing. Our goalie's better than their goalie. So
Yes, but our forwards are nowhere near it.
nowhere near it. But in the playoffs, right, you know, a hot goaltender can steal the series. You know, and the Habs have done well in the playoffs. There's that whole Montreal Canadiens myth, but they just don't play well. I mean, they played... That last game they played against the Leafs was like the way the Bulls and the Raptors played. It was just awful. I was like, just put them out of their misery, man.
Do you think Halak's going to get all the starts?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think Carey's just done for the year.
Yeah, totally.
Unless something happens.
Well, unless something happens, right? Yeah. If Halak is a smoking game and then Price steps in, who knows? Price steals a game. Who knows what could happen?
You never know.
Yeah.
He does have a lot of potential. But...
You approach the playoffs 2 ways, right? You approach it practically, like a hockey fan, and then you approach it like a supporter of your team. So, practically, if we win a game, I'll be surprised. And that there'll be some goalie But as a supporter of my team, maybe the gods will smile and we'll race it all the way to the finals, but who knows?
It must be nice to work here because you're so entrenched in CBC and the hockey.
Yeah, well, totally. I mean, although the CBC's not picking up the Habs. CBC's picking up...
It's on competition?
Yeah, it's on TSN, which is crazy.
I don't know if we could mention them or not.
Oh, I don't care. You do whatever you want. Yeah, you do whatever you want, for sure. Yeah, no, it's nice to be around Hockey Night in Canada. You know, it absolutely is.
Do you consider yourself a journalist or a talk show host?
I think you can be lots of things.
What would you label the show as?
The show is it's none of that. The show is just it's a natural conversation program, right? Which has elements of journalism, elements of comedy, you know, elements of just thoughtfulness. Like it is sometimes a bit, you know, over the line. It just is what it is. The show is kind of built around the personality of me, and so that, you know, I'm a human being, which means there's lots of different ways I can go, right? So I think the show just sort of reflects that.
How has it evolved over time with
well, I mean, as I've evolved, it's evolved.
Yeah.
As I've gotten older, the show's changed a little bit. I think the biggest evolution happened from the switch in time slot. When we're on at 8 o'clock, you're on before the evening news.
Right.
Right. So you serve a different purpose, and the audience watches television a little bit differently at 8 than they do at 11. At 11, I can slow it down a little bit and settle in a little bit, which is what we've done. So the show has changed in terms of its format, but the ethic is still the same, right? It's a show where we try to give you a high quality interview. We also present news in a way, you know, to an audience that perhaps not always connected to newscasts, and we try to be good company. So that's never changed. That's what the show has always been, just some of the formatics have changed over time.
Well, one of the things, you're not voicing the intros anymore.
Yeah, the bios. That's right.
How come? Just the lack of time. You're doing so much with other things.
No, I think it was about bringing another voice on the show, but also it was just something we were trying out. It's when I'm doing the interview, right? I need to be in a position where I can have as much possibility for discovery.
Right.
If I voice the bio, then the conceit is that you know everything about the guest. Here's their life, and then when I walk into the interview, I have to walk into the interview thematically, like I know all this stuff. But I want to be curious in the interview. I want there to be a sense of discovery. So by allowing Jen's voice to come on and it's not a disembodied voice. Jen is one of the writers in the show. So and Jen writes the bios with another guy named Randy. So her doing that allows me to then approach the interview a little bit more openly.
Are you able to do as much research that way, or are your writers doing that for you too?
Research? No. I mean, you have a producer is assigned. So a guest gets assigned to a producer. They come up with research. I do my own research, and we sit and we talk about it afterwards.
Right. So it's not like Leno. I know Leno. Well, I'm sure he does a lot of his own questions too, but he's got writers writing questions.
Yeah, no. If you watch our show, it's pretty fluid. Like it's pretty off the cuff. The way we don't have a set of questions and answers. You know, we have talking points that we think we might want to address depending on the interview. It depends on who it is and what kind of interview they are. Right. Those are things that sort of change depending on the person. But at the end of the day, the show's never really been anything other than what's happening, right? As off the cuff as possible.
I noticed with Harrison Ford, it was a little difficult for you to get him to.
No, you know, he just was who he was. That's the thing, right? The sign of a good interview. That was interesting.
Smiling.
Yeah. Maybe they'll saw a smile on the Habs.
Hopefully.
You know, the quality of an interview to me is determined by whether or not the person you're interviewing reflects and represents themselves the best. However they want that to be. That's their job, right? So I don't need an interview to seem like it's got the best conversation. I don't need the interview to feel like I get along with them. I don't need any of that stuff. That's not what it's about. Just be who you are.
Right.
Whoever you are today, that's good. So Harrison Ford, I was fine with because he didn't pretend. I mean, you'll see this when you interview people, and I'm sure you've experienced it. People are really difficult behind the scenes, and then once they get on camera, they're all smiling. That's kind of bullshit, right? I don't want that. I just want you to be who you are. Harrison was fine. He was very nice. I just don't think he likes doing a lot of press.
Well, and he doesn't.
Yeah, and
He
so
got lucky
I
with
think
that one.
that's pretty cool that he doesn't, because you stick to your guns, right? If you don't like doing it, don't do it very often.
Mm-hmm.
He recognizes that he should do some press. You know, we all do, and I'm sure you feel the same way. But you just got to be who you are. So I kind of liked the Harrison Ford interview because I thought, hey, this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
From my end, it was a little bit of work. I had to put a little extra, find a couple of different gears, but in the end, I thought it was all right.
You're getting some bigger names though nowadays. It's a little different from when the show. It must have been very hard to get those big names when the show started.
Oh yeah, sure. When we first started, nobody knew who we were. You know.
Well, you had your Much Music fame and notoriety.
Yeah, well, that's why we had a lot of bands. Like in the
Mhm.
very beginning, the biggest stars we had were bands that would come on. You know, cats who knew who I was either from Much Music or from when I worked in radio. But
But you're still doing.
yeah, still doing radio. Yeah,
Okay.
I've always that's what I started doing.
Well, you're so busy with this. How do you fit in time for that?
It's not about time. It's about doing what you love, right?
Fair enough.
I've been doing radio since '93, and I just love playing records.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just why I keep doing it. You know.
What are
That's
some of the bands that people should be listening to that you're finding?
It depends what kind of genre you like. If you like a bluesy or White Stripe stuff, there's a band from King City in Ontario called the Coppertone. It's got one really dope song called Nighttime Wishes.
Mm-hmm.
I love that song. If you like British music, I'd go for the Big Pink. I like the new Hot Chip album. I love a band from Toronto called The Beauties.
Mm-hmm.
They're a little bluegrassy and a bit of dirty rock and roll. A band called Flashlight and that, or some boogie, like ZZ Top kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, cool.
And
These are all underground bands though.
yeah, some of them. Yeah.